Halliwax here, back in the shed. I actually have Anakin Starkiller's next release right here with us. This is the RESIGNER. This is actually the prototype. Starkiller sent this to me back in December to finish and do a little step-by-step tutorial on how to assemble the kit and paint it. So Starkiller asked me to finish it for him and give a basic rundown of what comes with the kit, what you need to do to assemble it, and what colors I used to finish it. So let's start at the top and work our way down. This is, I acid aged the whole entire hilt. It comes apart in multiple pieces. I weathered and aged it all. This is all acid work on the emitter. This is all acid work here, all over the emitter. The whole hilt has been acid aged. So when I say on the prop, there's actually 3 of them that I know of. 2 resin stunts, and recently revealed a metal hero. And this is based off of one of the resin stunts. There's 2 of them. There's one with a gold neck that's dry brushed, and there's one with a copper neck that's dry brushed. So I decided to go with the gold neck base and then dry brush on top of it, which would be considered the white glove saber. I actually spent hundreds of dollars on rattle cans. I have tried every Rust-Oleum gold that they have out there. So I ended up ditching that idea and go with Tamiya airbrush paint. To achieve this wind vane color, I ended up using a Tamiya gold leaf and a Tamiya brown, which is actually red brown, and black, flat black actually, and flat black. So between these 3 I got this finish. I started off with the gold leaf as the base, and then I misted some red brown on top of that very lightly, and then you can see in this video where I start dry brushing by mixing the brown and the blacks, going over layer by layer. You can also see I used 2 different brushes because I wanted to simulate the brush strokes like you see on the prop today. You can actually see where they were brushing it on in some spots. So I have one light brush, and then I have one thicker bristle brush, which is actually the smaller one, which is actually putting the lines in the wind vane. The rails here, this is actually a really nice setup that Starkiller designed. I did with the gold leaf as well. And if you look at the top of the, you probably have to see it like this. If you look here, the rails go inside the control box. Very, very small sliver there. I ended up having to brush that with black because on the prop it's actually painted black there. So those are painted black like on the real prop, and that was just the flat black here that I used. And then I used some some of the brown mixed with black to give it some weathering on the rails, because the actual prop has a lot, the rails are actually dirty on the actual prop. The clamp card is actually brass, and when Starkiller was here, I aged it with a chemical, and I wasn't happy with it, so I buffed it back. I ended up putting some black in between the traces. And then I again weathered that with some browns and a messed up Q-tip to get all different textures and patinas on there. So that would be the clamp card here. I'm very happy with the way that came out. For some strange reason, on all the props, and it's different, but they weathered it right here on the control box where it meets the control box and the clamp section. So with acid work, I weathered that section there. All three props have that weathering there, but they're all different. So the prop maker intentionally put weathering there. So the arrows, this is very important. The green arrow needs a little bit of sanding. Well, both arrows actually need a little bit of sanding. And when I say this, I don't want people to freak, because when I say little, I mean very little sanding. You just take a file, you can see in the video, you can see in this footage here, I take a file and I just round the edges just a little bit. Seriously, it takes probably 30 seconds an arrow to get these things to fit. The green one a little bit longer, maybe a minute and a half, because there's a little edge in the metal here that you have to sand for it to fit in there. And if you look, like when you go to sand it, I use a file, a jeweler's file. When you go to sand it, it's going to be frosted on that section that you sanded because you're using the file. So I used some sandpaper, 400 grit sandpaper, and I sanded both back sides of these arrows to frost it. It also acts as a diffuser too, so if you're going to FX, it diffuses the light a little bit. The red is much thicker color than the green, so even when I sanded it, I couldn't tell a difference. I had to sand it really good to get it to match. But again, it was super simple. The only thing I recommend, and I'm being 100% serious with this, these arrows are tiny. You can see in this footage here, I'm sanding it and then I use the tweezers to hold it to the camera. The damn thing pinches out of the tweezers and gets launched over to my father's side of the shed. Which is fairly clean right now because we just had a huge flash flood. And we had to hook the generator up, so we had to move all of his stuff. But over there was a disaster, and I ripped all that stuff apart for an hour and a half to try and find that one red arrow. I was sweating bullets. I was afraid to call Starkiller and say, Dan, you're not going to believe this, but I lost the red arrow. Because there's such a limited run of these, I don't think he has any spares. I'm pretty sure it's less than 50 of these available. So, thankfully enough, believe it or not, I have a desk right here that I donated to friends of mine. And I teared this whole shed apart, underneath the shelves, in between the walls, everything. I teared the whole thing apart. I give up. I'm sweating bullets. I'm shaking. I'm like, oh man, I have to call Starkiller and tell him I lost it. It was right there on the desk the whole time. Anyway, what I recommend, when you sand these arrows, do it in a bucket. Go get one of your mother's pots. Put your hands in the pot with the triangle and do it that way, because it doesn't take much to be flicked out of your hand and then you lose it. That way, if you're working inside a pot and sanding it, it's only going to stay in the pot. Take my advice, please, because like I said, this is a limited run. I don't think there's any extra parts. And don't be intimidated by the arrows. I'm not lying when I tell you it took me about a minute and a half to get these to fit. And you got to go slow because you don't want to remove too much material. You'll notice that the screws are missing in the control box. So now when you purchase the kit, it's going to come with the screws. But when Starkiller delivered this to me, he didn't have the screws on hand. He has them on hand now, but he never sent them to me because I'm just going to send this to him and he's going to install them. So while I'm doing this video, there's no screws in there, but yours will come with screws, and I will post a picture now of the orientation of the screws, of how they should be, and that's how they look on the casts and the Metal Hero. That's how you can link the two. The black buttons are individual, and they're made for FX, so if you're not interested in FXing, you can glue them on there. You see me use E6000 all the time. I love E6000, even though a lot of people give it a bad rep. I like E6000 a lot. I didn't want to do anything permanent because I don't know what Starkiller's intentions are for this down the line. So if he wanted to FX it, I didn't want to get that in the way. The E6000 will pull the acid patina off with it. So I ended up 3D printing some little pins that sit inside the control box. I press them in like this. And then the black buttons clamp onto those pins. It's all tolerance tight, and they're not coming off. That's the control box. I think I covered everything on the control box. So let me back up here. The wind vane is actually 7578 flat black that I buff with a paper towel in certain areas to give it the look like it's been held, and paint is worn in more sections than others. The ring sections, I sand them on the lathe just like all the other lightsabers that I do, but it makes the aluminum shiny, so I ended up manually going in by hand and acid aging every one with a Q-tip. So if you look, you can see that it's not as shiny as the rest of the hilt. It matches, and you can actually see weathering in the rings. Speaking of in between the rings, I left behind some acid patina in between these recesses here, like on the real prop, including the pommel. The pommel is really dirty on the real prop, actually all the props, all three of them, it's fairly dirty. So I ended up leaving that in there as well. The tri-ring, the kit comes with a tri-ring. So this is the tri-ring that will come with the kit. But I threw on one of my own there because I like how it bends a little bit better on the corners. It's more round. But if he doesn't like that, you can take that off and throw his tri-ring on there. Here's the FX stuff that I acid aged for him. It's got his cool logo in the bottom, just like all the other ones. When he showed me this design, I thought that was wicked awesome. Like we showed you in the other videos, this center cap comes off. That's greased. And the FX one goes on. And there's 2 retention screws in the actual plate. You got 2 retention screws inside here. So when you put that in there, there's no visible retention screws, because that's what drives him and I nuts. There's too many sacrifices made for FX. I like how Starkiller makes it so he keeps the static community in mind still. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to cover. The inside diameter actually is the same as all the other Starkiller hilts, so it will fit the DS2 chassis that Ollie from White Cloud Sabers designed. I've taken that and I've modified it for other hilts of Starkillers, like the Rescuer. So the Rescuer chassis will actually fit right in this. You print that out and you're good to go. I think I've got that model for Profi. I don't remember if it's Profi or it might be Crystal Focus 10. I don't recall. But that's gonna wrap up what I did for this hilt. It took me a wicked long time to get out because I was really, how can I say this? I get a lot of help through the RPF. I don't know why, but I start obsessing about a prop, and luckily enough, somebody who's worked on the prop, or actually have made the prop, reaches out to me and helps me a lot. They give me paint codes, they give me reference. One of the most, one thing that I'll never forget is when the Darksaber was revealed at the end of Mando 1, and I flipped out. Because that's my second favorite lightsaber of all time. V2 Darksaber, Obi-Wan Hero. Those are my top three. So I remember when that leaked and the creator of it was sending me pictures of the blade, and he's like, yeah, it was really a last minute decision, and it was really poorly thrown together, and he showed me the 3D prints, and it was really, really cool. But I'm very fortunate to have those random connections. These people randomly come out to me and help me finish these things. I didn't have any help with this one, so it was a lot of trial and error with the colors on the wind vane, and I totally gave up on Rust-Oleum products for this and went with the Tamiya, and it was one shot, one deal. It worked out perfect. Well, I'm lying. I have a couple of samples I did up there before I did it on this, but it worked out perfect for me. I'm very happy with the color. I even tried there's like waves in it in some spots. I tried to copy the waves. So that's that. Ironically enough, I have a Star Killer Hero that I just finished for a client, actually a good friend, and I'm gonna whip that out to show you some comparisons between the two. So here is the Return of the Jedi Hero. Let's see if we're getting this in frame in the Skycam. And then the Resigner, The Last Jedi. And you can see how monstrous the Return of the Jedi Hero is compared to the Resigner. Look how much tinier it is. It's such a, I forgot who said it, but they said it best. It's such a dainty saber, and it really is. It really is. So that's the Anakin Starkiller Resigner. You're going to be able to grab these only at atstarsend.com. Again, less than 50 of these things made. So how can you find out when they're going to go live? Go to atstarsend.com right now and subscribe to his newsletter. Go like him on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I think he might have a TikTok. And of course, if you're new to this channel, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because I will be giving a 24-hour heads-up warning video of when these go live. 50 of them, well, less than 50 of them, they're not going to last long, because I know a few people are going to grab more than one. I want to wish you all good luck on trying to get one of these when they go live, and that pretty much wraps it up. I want to thank you all for watching. Keep an eye out for the next video. This is Halliwax, out.